Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to this month's episode of the Pre-Order Roundup, where we talk about the latest and greatest and maybe not so great figures that have just gone up for pre-order over the last month. Now this month was a little bit different for me because I ended up filming way too much. The video was like 50 minutes long, and instead of editing it down, I decided I'm just going to split it up into two parts. The format's not necessarily changing, and I'm still going to talk about everything that I wanted to, but I feel like this is definitely better for me, and likely better for you guys to be able to digest this information a little bit more easily. But yeah, that's it. Let's just start talking about the newest figures. So, I can't remember if we got a good Hatsune Miku last month, but this one is certainly making up for it. I love the hair on her. The spiraling twin tails were sculpted so perfectly, and is probably my favorite part of her design. You know, a lot of detail is going into the dress though, the outfit itself, which let me just say, I also think looks amazing. You know, I don't even really like glitter applied to figures, but the flowing blue fabric looks super good with all that glitter. There's a ton of lace throughout her dress, the frilly poofy top, which is under the corset that has some nice looking rose texturing on it, not to mention the black and white color scheme contrasts beautifully with all the different shades of blue throughout the rest of her design. You've definitely noticed this by now, but the rose hairpiece is such a great looking accessory to her hair too. And then you start to look at her eyes and damn, they are pretty. One of my favorite shades of blue, and that expression is perfect. Of course, we can't forget about that regal looking chair, which is a simple but really effective way of adding a bit of scenery to the sculpt. Not to mention the base underneath that goes along with it. It's kind of a big base in my opinion. It didn't really need to be that big, but besides that, I really like this figure. I think I should also mention, before I forget, that rose pattern along her thigh, which is really unique. You wouldn't really see that on other Mikus. Not sure if that's like a tattoo or just something that's from the game that she's from. I don't really know, but it does add some flair that other Mikus just won't have. Now this is pretty expensive at 32,000 yen or something like that, which is, yeah, that's a lot of money to ask for a Miku figure, especially one that's not like as crazy as ones we've seen in the past, but she is lovely in my opinion. The only issue I really have with this is that compared to the original arts, I feel like the hair sculpt is not as vibrant as I wanted it to be. That was something I was looking forward to, so slight disappointment there, but otherwise, I think this one is kind of stellar. So this unfortunate figure is the Spice and Wolf Holo Wedding Kimono version by CA Works. Now I gotta imagine if you're a big fan of Holo, you're probably upset at this one. Her face is just bad, I don't know what else to say, it kinda looks like she's staring into the void, it's very soulless, there's no life in those eyes. I really don't know why there are so many Holo figures that never capture her likeness correctly, but it always just makes these figures feel amateurish. I really don't like her pose either. I kind of hate the way she's holding up her hands. It looks very unnatural, and I don't really know what expression is trying to be conveyed here. If the kimono looked a little bit better, I can understand why people might still want this, but I also don't think that looks great either. I mean, the pattern on it is fine, I guess, but the shading on this figure is really light. It's not very impressive to look at. There's a lot of really beautiful Holo scales on the aftermarket and some that are upcoming, like the Good Smile Company one. So I gotta say, if you're in the market for a Holo figure, then your money is better spent elsewhere. So believe it or not, this Miku Nakano figure might have been one of the biggest surprises of the month, not because it's the most grand reveal, but because it's actually affordable. On AmiAmi, it's like 15,000 yen, and I think this one is gorgeous. I love this fashionable attire she has on. I love the sweater that she's wearing. I think Good Smile Company is really good at sculpting sweaters for whatever reason. The coat over it looks really nice as well. I love that shade of blue. The stockings contrast really nicely. The boots look super cute. Her headphones are really shiny, which I think looks nice against the matte finish of the coat and sweater. And then her face and hair sculpt, of course, looks lovely. I think she looks really pretty. One of my favorite figures of this month. Probably not something I'm gonna pre-order because I don't really watch this show, but I really like it. Amakuni is continuing to make these To Love Through Darkness figures where they're in the Arabian dancer attire. This is the Lala version, and maybe one of my favorite figures in this line so far. You know, I've never even really been a Lala fan, I'm more into Yami, but I gotta be honest, this Lala figure looks a lot better than the Yami. I love her face, and her hair sculpt looks amazing. I think it's just the pink hair against her really light skin tone. It just gives it a bit more of a fantastical look to it than the Yami does with the blonde hair, unfortunately. I mean, I'm just speaking of my biases, but what can you do? There's not even that much to really talk about. The loincloth sculpting looks nice, but there's not really that much there. The tassels and the decoration on the chest piece looks really good as well. And then her body sculpt looks appropriately sexy. There's not that much here. She is mostly naked, but it looks fantastic. And you know, maybe if I had some more money, I would be making some more reckless purchases, but I don't think I'm gonna get this. But if you're a fan, I would highly recommend it because Amakuni is fantastic, and I think this one looks stunning. So Rent-A-Girlfriend's Ruka is getting a figure from Broccoli. This is the limited edition version where she comes with a second faceplate. If I'm being honest, I don't feel like you need the one where her eyes are closed. I think the original one looks fantastic as well, but having options for only like 2,000 yen more is not that big of a deal. This is a rather cute figure for a character I don't really care about. If I'm being honest, one of my least favorite characters in the show, but I like the figure enough. I like that she's holding up her heart rate on the phone. I think that's cute and a nice reference towards the show. And her face is adorable, but a lot of the fun detailing is on her bag. The little fox mascot looks cute. The weird monster thingy, I have no idea what that is, but I like that design as well. You know, anything different and interesting is always going to catch my eye. But as much as I can sing this figure's praises, this is still a 20,000 yen figure for a girl who's basically just standing. And we already talked about the Miku Nakano figure only costing like 15,000 yen on AmiAmi, so this is definitely overpriced. But I mean, I guess you could do worse if you're really into this character. So my wallet is not going to be happy with me after this one, but this is the BB figure from Alter. Now, I believe it's their only figure of the month, and there's actually two versions of this, but before I get into that, let me just say that this figure is stunning, and maybe one of the quickest pre-orders I've made on a figure in quite some time. I wasn't even really looking forward to this. I had no idea it was a thing, but as soon as I saw it on AmiAmi, I had to pre-order it. Now, it's very expensive, but I kind of see why. I don't think it would be that big of a stretch to ask for this much money, because that hair sculpt is crazy. The freaking amount of hair on this figure is stunning. It's one of the best hair sculpts we've ever seen, at least in terms of volume. And then her outfit, which I guess is kind of like this vampire-y thing that's going on, kind of looks like bat wings in my opinion, but that just looks crazy cool as well. The metallic paint that's used for her ribbons on the inside of the coat, it just looks so good. The wrinkles throughout it all, there's just so much nice craftsmanship. Her body looks super sexy as well. But the problem with this figure is that there's two versions of it, and it's gonna make you make a choice. So you either get the original version, which has a darker skin complexion, or the lighter skin complexion, which has a different facial expression, hand pose, and the hair color is different. Now, unfortunately, I like the darker skin complexion, but I like the face and the hair color on the lighter one. And because that one's exclusive, it's gonna be harder to get, so I went with the lighter one. I just like her facial expression way more, and that vibrant purple hair just looks so much better than the muted color palette on the darker skin complexion. I don't know why they kind of shafted the colors a little bit on this one, but that's just the reality of the situation, unfortunately. Either one you get though, you do get that really cool tentacle base. No idea what's going on down there, but it is another really unique aspect of this figure that makes it kind of hard to pass up, and again, kind of justifies the price at least a little bit. Prices are getting so expensive on figures that I look at this and I'm not even shocked anymore. I think I have brain rot. That's not a good thing. Actually, before I forget, she does come with a second faceplate no matter which one you get. This evil faceplate where she looks like she's gonna kill you or something. I really dig that one. It's definitely a great faceplate, so I'm glad that it's shared between the two, so no matter which one you get, you at least get that one. This is an annoying release, don't get me wrong, but it's better than if they showed this off a year later after pre-orders were closed. That definitely would have made people really mad, so I think this is the better road they could have taken of the two. In conclusion though, this is a beautiful figure. I absolutely love it. I'm not gonna love paying for it. I'm sure the shipping price is going to be absolutely stupid, but I guess I'm gonna let future me deal with that problem. Man, I'm starting to lose faith in Prisma Wing a little bit. Still interested in seeing what they're making, but their pricing is already getting out of control. So this Kurumi figure has two versions, right? A normal and a DX version. Both are very expensive for what they are, but I'm just gonna focus on the DX version. Because Prisma Wing's roots lie in their big scale diorama statues from Prime 1 Studios, the need for them to go over the top on their figures seems like a necessity to them. There's nothing wrong with that, but I struggle to really find things that I love about this composition. I actually do like the flame parts in a vacuum. I think the shifting colors from the orange and yellow to the magenta and purple have a great visual appeal to it, but they don't add anything to this figure thematically. It feels very tacked on in an attempt to make it look cooler. The base, in my opinion, would also look a lot better if they just ditched the small podium on top. Just have her standing on the gears instead. Stack up two if you're worried about the height. The giant clock behind her seemingly being this huge flat piece is pretty disappointing as well. It makes for a nice backdrop, sure, but it's pretty hard to see the depth in this thing, if there even is any. I'm pretty sure there is, but considering I can't actually tell, I think that's a problem. You know, Kurumi herself doesn't look terrible by any means. I think she's in a cool pose and the flowing dress sculpt looks pretty, but don't you think her face also looks a little bit off? I've seen much prettier renditions of her, so again, I'm left a little bit disappointed. I haven't seen any buzz about this one at all from people buying it, so I don't think she's selling too well, but let me know if you're into this figure. So in my opinion, this Ryza scale is the second best one that I've seen of this character. My favorite one still remains the Max Factory one, but this is a very close second. She is pricey with no discount, unfortunately. She is a 1/6 scale, so she's pretty big, but this is a fantastic rendition of Ryza. I love the energy of this figure. The pose she's in is very playful, just like kind of jumping around, looks really cute. Her pants are falling off because this is like a half hybrid between the bikini and the normal outfit, which is pretty unique. I don't think a lot of Ryza figures do that. Her face looks amazing, pretty spot on to the character design. I love all the accessories around her belt, the potions, the bottles, all that stuff looks really neat. And then there's that really lush base. There's just so much detail there without it being like overdone. It doesn't overtake the figure in any way, but it still looks fantastic and adds a lot of personality to this figure. I don't like how there's a clear support beam when it would have made more sense to just connect her foot to that like stone pillar behind her. I don't get why they didn't do that, but either way, I don't think it's too distracting. Gotta mention the thighs, of course. They look wonderful as well, very plump, as you would expect. Really just a wonderful figure. If you could justify the price in your head, I can't for some reason, even though I just pre-ordered the BB for the same price. Maybe I'm just making too many purchases and I have a Ryza scale already on pre-order, so I don't need this, but if you like it, I guarantee it's gonna look fantastic on your shelf. So this Hanyu figure went up for pre-order as well, one of the laziest figures I've seen in recent times. I've been ragging on it at every chance I get, so I don't know how much more I can do this, but essentially this figure is just a retooling of the original sculpt, which looks way better. It was cuter, and the pose made more sense. And then they took that and tried to make it into this like serious, action-y figure where it doesn't really come together at all. The plastic on the bottom, those special effect parts don't look very appealing, her facial expression falls a bit flat, and it just exudes this energy of like laziness. I really would recommend passing this one up and just buying the original release if you're a fan of Hanyu or Higurashi. You really don't need this in your collection unless you're like a die-hard fan of the series or something. It's really interesting how this cat girl's second faceplate looks nothing like the first one. It's almost like they wanted to make sure that that faceplate looked more like a cat, but I don't really know if it's working that well. I guess it kind of does look a little bit more feline in a way. She's making the cat mouth. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of strange. Otherwise, this is a really simple looking figure. I like the fish that's in the mouth of the first faceplate. But yeah, it's just really like a little character sitting down. The floor looks kind of nice, I guess. Not really too much to talk about. The second figure this cat girl got, though, looks a lot better. I assume she's a little older here. I don't really understand how this is working, but I definitely like a lot more about it. I love the shirt's design, actually. I think it was on the other figure, but we actually get to see it since she's not crouched down. And then she also comes with this really big fish plushie, which looks super good and kind of makes me want to pre-order this. I just really like that accessory that she's holding on to. And then she also comes with a pillow that's shaped like a cat, so it kind of gives you that like homey vibe. Like it really does look like she just woke up. She's dragging her plushie out of the bed, the pillow fell on the ground. That's kind of the vibe that I'm feeling and I'm liking it. Plus her faceplates look so much better. They're both way cuter. Neither of them look weird. I think this figure is just like so much better than the other one. And I think it's just really cute. Let's wrap up this section of proper scales with a few sexy ladies. Can't go wrong there. First up, we've got this Moen Devil by Hobby Sakura. I was kind of just in awe by its beauty when I first saw her. That lovingly long hair and that beautiful dress that drapes into her legs. Properly thick without being overdone, but those bands around her legs are there to make sure that you remember that, and I really love those somewhat soulless eyes on her. As a devil, of course, she has horns, though they're a bit on the smaller side. Nothing wrong with that, just pointing it out. And she seems to be carrying a cane decorated with jewels. Not something I see too often, especially on a devil girl. There's actually a bit more belts on this figure than I realized. I must have been distracted by other aspects. I don't know what that could have been, though. It's weird. But they seem to be supporting those like stocking sleeves along her arms. I really just like the design of this figure's outfit. I don't really have a lot to say about the butterfly though, besides adding a little bit to her graceful pose. I kind of wish it looked a little bit different. I'm not a fan of the plastic used for it. It's a really minor flaw for me on this figure though, because otherwise I really like this one. So this is what you call cultured, right? Rich in backstory and plots? The Chinese dress can't really hold on much longer, so let's get into this one really quickly. So I don't know who Brilliant Journey is, but I do know that this figure is stacked. It's real nice of them to try and distract us with that lovely vase and shelf. Might force your eyes off of her for about, I don't know, 2 seconds. Her dress is draping on the top of the shelf actually, all the way onto the other side. That actually is a nice touch. The dress frankly looks quite pretty. There's a good combination of opaque and transparent plastic throughout it. I love the sultry expression as well. And I'm sorry, but this figure from the back is nearly as good as it is from the front. Keep her on a rotating table, or just buy 2 of them to fully enjoy this figure at all times. Also, I just realized you can kind of see her nipples a little bit through the dress, so this is getting pretty lewd. Strong impressions, brilliant journey. I hope you guys deliver on this one. Finally, we have Chao Ho, which is back to being more modest. You know, this one's really distinct with that huge paper fan and those missiles underneath her. Am I the only one who thinks the missiles kind of look like a squid, though? Something about the way it's sculpted doesn't look like smoke. Maybe it's supposed to be more like ink? I don't know. Either way, back to Chao. She's really beautiful. The symmetric red and white hair looks surprisingly good. Normally, I would hate that, but it matches her outfit and goes along with the purple eyes really well. I love the shade of the gold paint they use for a lot of this figure too. Some of it is that typical brighter gold, but along her headband and the stockings is a much more lighter tone, which works so much better here than if it was very saturated. This figure kind of just looks like an art piece, probably because of the giant fan with the artwork on it, but Chao Ho blends in seamlessly with it to create this really lovely piece. Berserk Armor Guts pop-up parade. You know, this release is pretty important in my eyes. It's definitely gonna like solidify my opinion of this line, but even outside of my takes, I think it's just a great opportunity for Berserk fans to finally grab a Guts figure at a very affordable price. The figure is sculpted in that iconic pose from one of the manga volumes. We all know it, super badass, and the amount of like careful lighting and Photoshop to make this figure look sick as shit is certainly working on me. But on the more honest photos, we could tell it's fairly detailed for this line of figures. The armor just kind of demands a certain level of sculpting, you know? I think he looks great so far considering his price tag, and I think giving us an extra head to allow us to put a battery inside to make one of his eyes glow is an extra step that shows that they really want this to be special. My only issue with this one is how clean it is. It's like begging for some weathering, some dirt, some scratch marks, stuff like that. Definitely need some like blood on the sword. Might be worth getting into customizing for this figure, but for now I've got my pre-order in and I'm excited to get him. The one pop-up Parade XL that makes this line justified went up for pre-order this month, Eren Yeager in his Attack Titan form. This guy just looks way better than the original in my opinion. Much nicer sculpting in his muscles, and his face detailing is leagues ahead of the old one. Having the old pop-up Parade exist was nice just because they don't really make that many Titan form figures, but assuming this guy looks remotely like the promotional images, I think this is a good release. Just like Lucy from last month, we're also getting Natsu in an XL size. Outfit was changed on this newer figure, which I think I slightly prefer, but only slightly. He's got a nasty seam line on his arm from behind though, unless his arm is just removable, but I'm not sure why that would be. A giant Natsu figure is cool, I suppose, but is it worth the price tag? I don't know. We gotta wait and see. I do want to wrap up the pop-up parade section with these two though. I'm very excited to see Fire Emblem Three Houses getting some new figures. Now, I would have expected Edelgard to get a proper figure from Intelligent Systems, which I suppose is still on the table, but like freaking Bernadetta is getting a pop-up parade? That's awesome, and the kind of figure I'd like to see Goodsmell tackle on this line. Look, it's just facts that her chance of getting a proper scale was astoundingly low, so this is the next best thing. There was also announcements for Dimitri, Felix, Claude, and Lysithea in the future, which I believe we'll be seeing in the next few months. I think these two look fairly nice for pop-up parades, and I hope Good Smile Company tackles more Nintendo characters. Maybe go back to like Kid Icarus with Palutena, Viridi, Medusa. There's a lot of money to be made here, guys. It doesn't matter if they aren't relevant anymore, people will buy them. Well, it's finally time to talk about the Spy Family Nendoids. All three of them went up for pre-order this month, and they weren't met with universal fanfare as you might expect. In some cases, quite the opposite, but let me start off with what I consider to be the best one and work my way down. Surprisingly, it's Lloyd. Now, it's not like he comes with that much. He gets a pistol and a newspaper, which are appropriate and fitting, so no complaints, and his faceplates all look pretty good. Best default faceplate of the three characters, looks just like how he would on a spy mission. The happy faceplate is cute and even comes with a hairpiece with his bangs down for that more casual look, and then the annoyed or trouble face, I think that looks perfectly fine. But it's slightly overpriced at 6,500 yen. Not the biggest deal with discounts, but it is kind of pricey for something relatively simple. Next up is Yor, and my issue with her is more so how poorly represented she is here. Now, I think the sculpt is great. The gold headband and knives, or are they needles? That stuff looks great, and her faceplates technically are all model accurate, but they're boring and don't fit the costume she's wearing. If she's gonna be in her assassin outfit, would it have killed them to give us a faceplate that was like more badass with the sharp eyes or the murderous intent, something like that? All we get here is a frown, a happy face, and an even happier face, which is like fine, but completely undersells her character. Even a goofy or shocked expression would have been way better than doubling down on her cuteness. Also, her only accessory are her weapons. She's 400 yen cheaper than the other two, but to jump ahead to my final point for a second, this just feels rushed out the door. And finally, we have Anya. Oh boy, you know, when I first saw this at One Hobby, I thought little of it. I liked it enough and I only really questioned how she would scale next to the other two. It was bound to look wrong, but that's just a flaw of the Nendoroid template, so proportionally this Nendoroid just doesn't work out too well due to her canonical size. I say this all the time, but shrinking down an already small character needs careful consideration. It either ends up a perfect transition or very flawed. Now as for her accessories, she only gets one, her plushie that she always carries around, which had to be here and it looks good. But this is somewhat made up for with her 4 faceplates. Her default plate is a bit unique, though I don't understand why they chose this expression. Even just a normal smile would have been better here. Her happy faceplate looks a lot better, and one of the two that are really good in my opinion. The surprise faceplate is perfect in my opinion, the stylization is spot on here, but the last one is just, no man, the smug face looks terrible. It really shouldn't be this way, but like, why does she have blush stickers? Traditional blush is always used for Anya, and this change just makes her look like a clown. The mouth also not showing teeth is weird, and her eyes look slightly off. It's just so strange how it turned out this way. Part of me believes these Nendoroids were rushed out due to the hype of the series. If they had more time to cook, I believe they would be much better. But with this much complaining, I just have to reiterate that I do like Lloyd, and I think Yor looks fine on a technical level, but not realized enough and deserves better. Anya should have gotten some special treatment. There's no way they couldn't have given her a special mold. This is a really popular character, and if they can do it for something like the Pop Team Epic Nendoroids for instance, which I love by the way, and if they were planning to make smaller Nendoroids in the future anyway, then yeah, what is the reasoning for this? Okay, I'm done with my little rant. Let's get back to talking about figures like a normal person. They seriously put the word dick suck on a Nendoroid. I don't even know what else to say. That warrants this Nendoroid existing entirely. I'm pretty sure Chugai Mining solely exists to fund these Blood Blockade Battlefront Nendoroids, but clearly someone working on this Nendoroid has a good sense of humor. The rest of his kit feels solid enough, maybe not for the price they're asking for, but this whole line feels like a passion project, so I think they just want to get these characters out no matter what. Ram from Guilty Gear Strive. If you missed out on her scale figures, maybe this will make for a good substitute. Just like Dizzy, this sculpt looks fantastic. Those swords and bats are pretty much the only accessories you get, but I love them. Don't you just love her big hat too? Only 2 faceplates is a bit of a bummer though, and we didn't even get shark teeth, so that's a bit lame, but these 2 aren't bad at all. But you know what would have been great? Some effect parts. Even just like a simple green slash piece would have went a long way. I still definitely like this, but the nitpicky side of me wants a little bit more. So the big question I had with Reiner's Nendoroid was what could they possibly do with him, and Good Smile's response was, let's put a gun in his mouth. This imagery is just something else, man. On par with the dick suck, frankly. Good Smile's just on a roll with these jokes today because this is genuinely funny as shit to see a toy with the selling point being that he's about to blow his brains out. That despair-filled expression is pretty much perfect though. His default plate is nice as well, though surprisingly, his third faceplate is a shaven face to represent how he looked like when he was younger. And it comes with a speech bubble that says, "Gonna marry her," which fans should be familiar with. It's definitely a weird choice, and this will only make sense if you take this head and put it on the body of another Shingeki Nendoroid. I suppose that's resourceful in a sense, maybe not too exciting for some people who only bought Reiner though. Reiner is really simple, which is reflected on his price. He's pretty cheap, but also exclusive, which kinda just cancels out the savings, yay. Still like this one though. Desumi Megara, some sort of Grim Reaper princess. I just love how her weapon of choice seems to be a spike ball flail. That's just fun. This embarrassed expression is also really cute. There's something about this Nendoroid that feels like slightly early 2000s anime, but I can't put my finger on it. Anyway, when she has her hood and skull mask on, she slightly reminds me of Duranjo. It's really just the ears and color palette though. The design isn't too similar otherwise, but it's cute on this Nendoroid. It's a bit funny how like teeny tiny the skull is when you have the hood down. Like I understand why they do this, but it is a pretty jarring contrast. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about this show, so this ain't for me, but she do be cute. Okay, so I actually had to like redo this section because there's a really weird omission with this Nendoroid that I don't understand, and I just didn't catch it the first time. But before any of that, I really was under the impression that this Nendoroid was fantastic. Her accessories are great. The comically large chopsticks is really funny. She gets her own bench, a bento box, a fidget spinner, and a reversey board. There's a lot here, and her faceplates are not amazing, but they are very fitting for a character who's not really that expressive. But like, she can't actually stand. She doesn't have a piece that allows her to stand up. I didn't even think about this at first because what Nendoroid doesn't stand? It's such a weird thing to omit from a Nendoroid and surely wouldn't cost that much to add. If anything, just ditch an accessory to make up for it. Does this bother any of you guys? I can't help but think it's really silly. Alright, and with that, we are done with part 1 of June's pre-order roundup. Now, I pre-ordered BB and Guts, but maybe I pre-ordered some more in the next part. Guess you'll have to tune in to find out. Ooh. Anyway, part 2 will be out in a couple of days. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.